No, 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 no.
Hey everyone, I'm going to talk about this indie game that in my opinion perfectly represents the horror RPG genre. A game that despite its low budget appearance and simplistic design, masterfully blends its survival horror and RPG elements together. A game that will divide people like Marmite, in that you're gonna love it,
Oh, I hate this game. I hate this game.
or hate it, or both. Now, before going forward, there is a content warning. So this is the game, so I didn't even need to make my own.
Okay.
And there will be mild spoilers. Just go play the game and come back, as this game is best experienced blind anyway. Fear and Hunger. Released in 2018, and mostly played by Russians until normies found it,
Fucking speak English.
was made by Finnish developer Miro, and is a survival horror dungeon crawler foray into madness and depravity. Peppered with some RPG sim-like elements, but emphasis is definitely on the former. It's a punishing game that doesn't hold your hand, it cuts it off. And as you'd expect from a country that shares a border with the ex-Soviet Union, has those long dark Scandinavian winters and some of the highest taxes in Europe, this game is cruel and fucking depressing. It's brilliant. Set in a low dark fantasy medieval era, aka fake Europe, the game takes place in the kingdom of not London, and London's flag looks just like England and St. George's flag, so that means the game takes place in Croydon. And in there lies the prison, Fear and Hunger.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's
Complete with dungeons and catacombs, the place is intended to house the worst criminals of the kingdom, but with time has become corrupted and twisted, and houses a dark secret pertaining to numerous gods. A leader of a mercenary group named Lagarde, I'll spare you the obvious berserk references, but rest assured they're there, a man with his own set of mysterious ambitions and agendas, is imprisoned there, and for reasons you'll soon uncover, 4 determined individuals head into the place to seek him out. After the main title screen, boasting a beautifully done yet unsettling art style, just look at this shit. You're thrown into the character selection. Here, you're given a choice to play as one of the 4 characters. A quick rundown. The mercenary, an all-rounder who can learn lockpicking at the start, which makes exploring easier. His reason for rescuing Lagarde, he's been hired to, with the payment from the job being enough to allow him to retire, and his wife to stop doing her side hustle. The Knight, a typical combat class with sturdier defences, and who I most recommend for the first time through the game. Her intentions for finding Lagarde, she's his lover, and is also a prominent member in his mercenary band called the Knights of the Midnight Sun. The Dark Priest is the Goth's favourite, and is also the common spellcaster, so that means he's as fragile as balls. He hits like a fly in the wind and can't take as much punishment as the other characters can. To counter this, he can learn necromancy at the start of the game. This of course allows you to summon the undead for extra party members to form a My Chemical Romance tribute band with, who can then help get your withered ass to Lagarde, who to you is just a stepping stone to greater knowledge and power. Then there's the Outlander, the thinking man's barbarian, based on a Viking Northman, has survival skills like Devour that can help stave off the hunger by eating your vanquished foes, and a rage ability to help sustain him for his campaign of violence. If he finds a way to Lagarde, he wants to fucking kill him. Oh shit, okay, I think he killed him. Whoever you choose, the other 3 appear in the world with a chance to recruit them as party members. Even Lagarde himself is able to join your party, if you're quick enough in finding him. Good luck with that though, until you learn the game more. The game starts and you get a choose your own adventure style creation of the background to your character. These choices will affect your starting equipment, items, skills and phobias. For example, as mentioned with the Dark Priest, you can choose to murder your sister in the back. This pleases the elders around you and you're given necromancy.
Let the hate flow through you.
The mercenary is given a choice between becoming a burglar or a pickpocket, the latter allowing you to steal certain items from enemies and the former granting you lockpicking to bypass most locked doors for free. It's bloody useful. I won't say too much on the story, you'll have to discover that on your own. You're thrown into the game and your character is faced with the dungeon entrance and the thick fog surrounding you, preventing you from turning back. Better get to it, no lingering here. Usually this is where you get used to the controls, walk around checking everything in the immediate area, taking your time etc. But the game doesn't want you to do this, at least not for too long anyway, as you'll find out like I did.
Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Oh, he's got you. Oh my god. You will die a lot, and that's if you are lucky, because you better believe there are fates worse than death, and the odds of survival are slim, but the odds of surviving intact are even slimmer. Just like an abusive mistress, she will make you feel good for about 30 seconds, and then beat the shit out of you, and each time you'll be back for more. The threats are constant, but true to the title of the game itself, fear and hunger are ever-lingering threats, as adventuring slowly but surely raises your hunger that you'll need to satisfy with food found in the many lootable containers, or slowly become weaker and starve. Your mind also drops the more fearful you grow, especially in the dark areas, which is basically 95% of the game. This makes torches incredibly important because there's very little light scattered around, especially on the harder difficulties, as you won't even get a customary aura of light around your character. You have 100 hit points and that's it. There's no increasing it like in other RPGs. Don't change the difficulty until you're more familiar with the game. The mind stat also acts as mana for some of the magical abilities you can get, which presents a pesky conflict of resources throughout the game, if your character depends on casting spells that is. The lore, much like a Dark Souls game, is told primarily through books, texts, journals and diaries scattered throughout the dungeons, and sometimes through conversations that you can have with NPCs. Piecing it all together and uncovering the truth is part of the experience. The deeper you go, the more you must traverse the twisted, corrupted halls of the dungeons and encounter its inhabitants, made by the horrors of what happened under the watchful eye of the old, new and ascended gods altering reality and just generally messing shit up. Many have become insane and are just plain evil and will do horrible things to you if you are unfortunate enough to be taken alive.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? Does it fucking look like I'm doing, you cunt?
The gods themselves are twisted, contradictory, and have lost the fucking plot. During your journey to find Lugard, you will learn about some of the gods and pray to 3 of them for potential awards and gifts. Grogoroth is the god of destruction. He revels in the carnage and bloodshed and will reward those who commit the appropriate acts in his name. Do you want to learn a powerful spell from the School of Blood Magic? No problem, just offer that party member up as a sacrifice and it's yours. No refunds. Sylvain is the goddess of love and fertility. She wants performances of love done in her name. This includes marriage, the union of flesh to another party member. This ends up being horrendously literal, to even participating in what I can only describe as a swingers party for furries. This gives a party a full heal the first time, but you risk getting pink-eye the second time, so don't bother. Thirdly, you have Olmir, basically Jesus, who was mortal before becoming a god, and is currently the most worshipped god in all of Rondon. Earning his favour will allow you to alter the aspects of reality, such as, you guessed it, walking on water and turning water into that sweet, sweet wine. Each of them all, besides maybe grief for Jesus, are paradoxical in nature and batshit insane, best exemplified by Sylvain's version of the marriage. Their powers are as raw and potent as they are cruel, their twisted gifts always come at a high price. Fear and Hunger was made using RPG Maker, so for those unfamiliar with that game engine, it plays similarly to other classic Japanese RPGs, but with less hentai. One of the differences is the limb system. Stats and attributes take a back seat here, in favour of tactics and strategy. On enemies, each limb has its own health pool, abilities and turns in combat. For example, if an enemy has a weapon in one hand or a shield in the other, cutting off that limb will prevent the enemy from using it on you. And you definitely want to do this. Hitting the head is the fastest way to defeat an enemy due to the low health heads have, but it is often the hardest to hit unless you damage their legs first to throw them off balance, which in turn makes their head vulnerable. But hey, don't get comfortable. The same limb removal system applies to you too.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary. 'Tis but a scratch.
If an enemy cuts off your arm, that's it, it's gone, and you can no longer hold things with it, including weapons. Losing a leg slows you down.
I'm invincible!
Lose both legs and you will be forced to a snail's pace crawl. If you end up losing both your arms and legs, and are somehow still breathing, well then you're just fucked at that point. You become about as useful as Anne Frank's drum kit. You won't be able to keep playing until you choose to stop breathing, close the game, uninstall it, and go and complain on the internet. But seriously, you don't have to fight the enemies. A lot of them can be just avoided, and in fact, running is an encouraged tactic, as there is no XP points in this game, so no level ups, and only a few enemies have stuff worth risking your life for. What gives this game an extra challenging twist is the many items and status effects. At first, all seems as you'd expect with the typical items and effects seen in RPGs, but one look in the menu and you'll see that the game offers little to no description or explanation for what they do. So how do you learn what these things mean or do without having a wiki open next to you? Simple. You figure it out through trial and error or from in-game scriptures like alchemy books and medical journals. Some are obvious, like the blood drop for bleeding, broken bone for, well, broken bones, or even this ominous one, which I can only assume is caused by wiping your ass with sandpaper. But some others are a little more perplexing, like this ring of spiky sausages. Turns out this is intestinal worms, which you can diagnose from reading the right book, or keener-eyed players will notice their hunger meter increasing a lot quicker now, and may put 2 and 2 together. The more interesting and definitely annoying one is the infection status effect. That can target either your arms or your legs. Some enemies can give you infection, like the ghouls for instance, but the most annoying way you'll get it though is by stepping on a rusty nail. Seriously, these things are about as welcome as a fart in an elevator.
Oh bollocks, damn it.
They crop up in several places and prove that tetanus is the #1 cause of death for any adventurer that isn't paying attention. Doesn't matter though, after going into 7 different areas, the game just ends you as you succumb to the infection. Your only options are finding one of the somewhat rare, finite amount of green herbs available on the map. Or going all Saw 1 like and cutting the infected shit right off with the rusty bone saw you found in that one piss stinking room a while back. Life here is cheap, limbs are even cheaper. I will mention what I think is the best item in the game, the empty scroll. It is a rare drop that you can find in bookshelves. With this you can pretty much spawn any item, best weapon, armor or ability in the game, on the condition that you write the correct command on it with a quill that you also have to have on you. I won't spoil it, work it out for yourself. The game gives you clues though, but you know, cheat, whatever, it's fine. Fear and Hunger effectively utilises the resource use that's prevalent in survival horrors. Do you risk using that bone saw now, crippling yourself? Or do you still hold out hope that you'll find that green herb sooner down the line before infection finishes you off? If you have other party members with you, who are you going to use your precious healing items on, if at all? Outside of combat, are you going to spend those cloth fragments to stem the bleeding? Or use them on making torches to slow the fear of the darkness? And to top it off, you can only save your progress by sleeping in a bed. There aren't many of them, and the outcome is governed by a coin flip mechanic. A simple 50-50 chance, no more, no less. If you win the coin toss, you get to save. If you happen to lose the coin toss, then your slumber is promptly disturbed by an enemy, or worse, only to have to fight for your life once again. You can, however, find lucky coins. They act a bit like the advantage dice roll mechanic from Baldur's Gate 3. You flip 2 coins instead of 1, increasing your chances to 75% instead of 50. These are rare though, and can add pressure to your decisions on when to use them. It could be the difference between finding some useful armor and weapons, or sweet F all. All these situations that you can find yourself in create a thrilling sense of anxiety, showing that this game can create a menacing atmosphere through its mechanics beyond just a certain murderous crow-headed bastard chasing you around the place. Ah yeah, this guy. Crow Mauler, as he's called, is the game's stalker enemy, in that he would just follow you around and try to kill you. He's triggered after you enter the mines, and will relentlessly pursue you through the rest of the dungeons and areas of the first half of the game. The juice really isn't worth the squeeze here, and it's best just to run and avoid a battle with this stuff of nightmares, unless you want the key he drops if you defeat him, which unlocks a door in the basement at the start of the game, and inside lies a powerful weapon, but by now, you know the game just doesn't hand out significant power-ups without a cost. You've been warned. It's wise to treat the philosophy of the gameplay loop as similar to that of a roguelike such as Hades, where with each failed run you learn more and more to not only increase your chances of survival each time, but to eventually conquer the challenges the dungeons bring. There's no such thing as a failed run if you learn something from it, right? As the intro to this video showed, when my curiosity got the better of me and I decided to jump down a toilet hole thinking it would lead to something interesting like a secret passage or something, I was doomed to starve in a shitty well. It was a run ender. But sorry little girl, you're on your own. The game doesn't always reward you, rather, reward comes in the satisfaction of overcoming an obstacle, which there are many. And it is brutally honest in its convictions. It doesn't piss on your shoes and tell you it's raining, it just straight up fucking kills you. One minute you're trying to get some sleep, and the next you're waking up strapped against your will to the torture table belonging to the dungeon's resident Ramsay Bolton. Then boom, you're a eunuch, and sausage is now on the menu. There's no subtlety right from the start, with all the gore, cannibalism, visible genitalia and sexual violence, all the way to the characters such as the boogeyman merchant Pocket Cat, who is literally playing pocket pool with his meat and 2 veg as he's telling you he will only trade in human children. In fact, if you have the girl in your party, he makes a pretty sleazy comment towards her that leaves you feeling like you want to go all Frank Castle on his ass right there. Of course, the items he sells can be pretty tempting, but I find myself getting through the game just fine without them, so yeah, fuck that guy. Anyway, if this has left you wondering how you're supposed to get stronger in the game if experience points and leveling up isn't a thing, well, at some point in the early game, you'll find a special altar where you can spend soul stones that you find. These stones are pretty much useless, unless you first fill them with the soul of something that you have killed. You can then use these imbued stones at the altar to learn new skills or curse a weapon, which are only really useful against ghosts. It may end up being a necessity to do this to tackle the endgame stuff, where the freaks get more intimidating and can be much more difficult to defeat.
You're making me mad! Fucking mad!
The other 3 playable characters are recruitable, as well as the guard himself, but there's other potential companions you can bring along the way. Most notable, Moonless, a cave wolf mutated from the darkness of the caves. She will attack you at first, on sight, and most players, including myself, will either die or kill Moonless. Because why wouldn't you? It's a terrifying mutant wolf that's trying to liberate your blood from your jugular. But if you take the option to talk, which you can do by the way in battles, with sometimes interesting results, you can throw her some rotten meat if you have some. This will, in turn, make her trust you and she will join your party. Another is Nas'hrah, all-loving shit-talker and disembodied floating head of a powerful wizard that you may encounter in the gore tunnel area by the prison. At first he doesn't take kindly to being disturbed and will just straight up cream you with a giant fucking demon that claws his way out of the darkness and just flattens you. But again, by using the talk option during battle, he will notice certain items that you have in your possession and will agree to follow you through the rest of the game. While he's lacking the body to equip armor, weapons and trinkets, he is useful to have because he's a psychopath.
You like Huey Lewis and the Huge
And can do decent damage with the spells he comes with. He's also immortal and can't die. He doesn't need to eat and is not affected by the creeping fear of having a low mind stat. Don't try to marry yourselves together though, as he's having none of that shit and will just barbecue you right on the spot, ending your run. Same goes for trying to sacrifice him. If you haven't noticed by now, the game is abundant in sexual content and references. This ends up being what many would consider the most controversial aspect in the game, being defeated by certain enemies in certain ways, namely prison guards with their massive stingers, their stingers intact.
Yeah, boy.
Shows your character getting sexually assaulted, and granted you don't die from this, but your character is left in such a terrible state of affairs that you just feel like death was probably the better outcome anyway. Another example is the enemy on the second half of the game. This creepy sticker insect looking fucker called a Harvest Man. During battle, it will pet you, which at first seems pretty harmless, but after the third turn it'll actually try to grab you, and then there's the 50-50 coin flip chance that determines if you're going to be the turkey that gets the stuffing. Visually, the game is brilliant. Mixing pixel art with digital painting creates a unique art style to the design of the characters and monsters. The style is creepy, jarring, and coupled with the sound effects and music, it fills the game with a foreboding atmosphere of dread. I love it. So, overall, Fear and Hunger is a great little indie survival horror RPG, and I had a great time getting my ass handed to me before I mastered its tricks. It is offensive, outright disturbing, packed with twisted lore that makes for a compelling reason to want to delve further into its depths and learn more. It doesn't hold back in letting you, the player, make the choices, no matter how deplorable, just to survive or achieve otherworldly power to accomplish your goals. The game isn't very long, an average playthrough may take several hours depending on your knowledge of the game. Out of the many endings, one can be achieved in around 30 minutes. It's available on Steam for £5.79. That's the price of a Tesco meal deal, but without the disappointment.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Thanks for watching, and until next time, farewell.